Welcome to Meet My Friend with Daddy Porter and my friend Doug Ziegler.
Howdy, folks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Had a fun interview earlier today. You can see on Meet My Friends on my YouTube channel. But today we are here with the Wisconsin Beer Baron, Chris Drosner. For Wisconsin beer people, this should be a really good fun time. Everybody's pretty much familiar with him. He writes a post that pretty much a lot of people in the beer industry read in Wisconsin. So it's really cool to have him and to be able to call him my friend. I was able to make good contacts done, as you know.
Yeah.
So he's just another one on the list. So what are you drinking real quick, or do you want to even say?
Yeah, all I got is just what I had before, the Pulp Patriot Blueberry. Like I said, it's touted as a milkshake. So it's like touted as a milkshake IPA. It's more like a hazy IPA, but it's good. That's 9.5%. So steady as she goes.
I'm finishing off my Ale Asylum. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
what was that? 35 beers for $37 or something like that?
Something insane like that, yeah.
We're due for another run there, so it's time to clear that out here. And someone who knows a lot about Ale Asylum is the Wisconsin Beer Baron, so we'll jump off of him, right? Or I forget it was.
We'll jump
How you doing?
Thanks for that introduction, Greg.
I'm getting these introductions down, man. I'm a work in progress, as my esteemed colleagues laughing at me. But what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Great. So let's so today on my YouTube channel, Styling with Daddy Porter and Friends, we had an edition come out with Chris today. We talked about American IPA. If you listen to that, Chris goes into a little bit about his background there. But I want you to kind of go a little bit, I kind of want you to do that again here. And so, because everybody knows, especially in Wisconsin, everybody knows who the Beer Baron is. Everybody reads you pretty much. Or that's my anecdotal evidence. Because, when we go around these different beer things, we talk about, the topics of the day, and you usually hit on them. But where did this all start? Where did your craft beer love come from? And then kind of hit into where, how you became the Baron.
Well, I was, let's see. My craft beer story goes back to like college, I guess. I went to UW-Madison, and we had, we dabbled a little bit in we being my roommates and friends and I dabbled in craft beer a little bit. Back then it was kind of Capital Amber, and I remember going to a house party one time in some like old church or something over on, it was like on Butler Street, and it was like the coolest house party ever because it was like this huge thing, and I remember it was really dark, and they had like black lights, and it was totally gothic, and they were pouring Guinness, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, what am I even doing here? Like, we might have to leave. But I kind of gradually ramped up and became a little bit more of a fan. Certainly far from an expert or anything, in the years after college. And I'm a newspaper guy, or I was, and I was working at the Green Bay Press-Gazette back in my hometown. And they asked me if I wanted to write a bar column, like where, you just profile a different place every week. And I was like, yeah, you're going to pay me to write about bars and go to bars. Okay. So did that. And a couple years later, they actually had a beer columnist at the paper, and it was a kind of a higher up editor guy. And he wrote it in this it was called the Brew Guru. So it wasn't like his named column. It was like the Brew Guru. And part of the bit was that nobody really knows who the Brew Guru is. It's like this anonymous thing. And they would put a different celebrity mugshot in the, with the column each week. And it would say the Brew Guru ? And it'd be like, like Britney Spears and Richard Hatch and other early 2000s things. And eventually the guy didn't want to do it anymore. And they were like, well, you're the bar columnist. You want to write about beer too? And I was like, sure, I can do that. And, as I kind of got into it, this is probably around like 2002, maybe 2003, somewhere in there. And as I kind of got into it, I started to realize the depth and nuance and how much there is to say about beer and all the different styles and that sort of thing. And it was a slow process. It took me probably quite a few years to really get a good grasp on styles and why they're important and what they mean and that sort of thing, and really kind of find my palate and you get good at something by basically practicing it, and that was what I was doing in that time. I was just figuring things out. So I actually wrote that column for the Press Gazette unsigned, like my name is not on any of them. And for a while I was like adopting this kind of like persona that the previous guy had created. So I wasn't really writing in my own voice. I was like referring to myself as the brew guru in the third person and, stuff like that I would never do these days. But, but I mean, to be writing a beer column for like however long it is, 16, 17 years is kind of seems like a long time. So eventually I got into I switched jobs and moved to the State Journal in Madison. And I didn't immediately like start writing a column for that paper. I was still freelancing the Brew Guru back to my old paper. And eventually the features editor found out about this and was like, hey, do you want to write a beer column for us? And I was like, yeah, that would be preferable to, so we started that in 2011. That's kind of been it. The name kind of came about when we weren't really sure what to call it. Like it was just going to be like Chris Drosner beer column or something. I don't know. That seemed boring. So we wanted to give it a name, and my first ever homebrew session was the weekend before we came up with the name, and I was brewing with two buddies of mine who were way better at brewing than I was, and we kind of like put together a list of like one side of the paper was words that are beer related, and the other side was like column or blog or guy, like persona related. We kind of just had, so there's like hop and malt and beer and brew and all the stuff on one side, and then there's like stop, guy, dude, whatever, on the other side. And we looked at it and tried to just cross up all the different combinations, and none of them were any good. And at the end of this, as this is kind of unfolding as we're, how brew days are with three guys, so a few beers were consumed. Eventually we're like, somebody said, what about the Beer Baron, like Rex Banner and Homer Simpson? And I was like, the Beer Baron. Yeah, that sounds good. So it might have even been the next morning when we were all hungover and talking about it or something. But yeah, it is an explicit Simpsons reference. It was far later that I found out that the Beer Barons is the name of the Milwaukee homebrew club, and I was like, oh shoot, sorry guys. Not that I was like stealing any of their thunder, because they're like they kind of own the name, but obviously, and now I'm in Milwaukee, and so it's that name kind of has a lot more resonance, I think, in Milwaukee than it does in Madison. But in any case, yeah, that's kind of the story of how that all came to be. I can't believe it's like it's 10 years now, almost, I guess, or 9, whatever. Writing that column for the State Journal, and it's been up and down in terms of frequency. But usually it's about weekly, which we're shooting for weekly now. Sometimes it's every other week. For a while there, it was about once a month. But it's a lot of beer that I've written about over the years. And sometimes I go back and see an old column and I'm like, oh God, what was I doing? Like, just the level of knowledge that I've kind of accumulated by talking to people in the business. It's a work in progress, and you have to like talk to people to do this. And it's a very journalistic approach that I take. So I'm as good as my sources, and my sources are usually pretty good. So I mean, not to say that I'm that good, but they are, all the people that I've talked to over the years have kind of put me into this level of like expertise, with air quotes there, that I have now. So it's been a heck of a journey, and more than I'm really thankful for, really.
Doug?
Well, not being from Wisconsin at all, because I'm in upstate New York, he said, Greg was super excited to get you on the show. And he said, oh, I got the Wisconsin Beer Baron. And I'm like, obviously, I'm like, that's cool. I don't know who that is, but you're really excited. So that makes me excited. I want to know. I want to learn. And, so the beginning, was basically did you go to school for journalism, or?
Oh yeah, right. Like my actual career. Yeah. So I went to journalism school at UW, and have worked at newspapers, and now I currently work at Milwaukee Magazine. I'm an executive editor there. So, but I started as a copy editor and page designer, and switched over to kind of the assigning editor side of things. So my last group of reporters that I was managing at the State Journal had the city government, courts, crime, kind of harder, hard news stuff. I've run the Capitol team for a bit. So yeah, I mean, it's a news background, and that's the approach that kind of drives the perspective here.
Yes, absolutely. So I had up here I wanted to get to this column here that kind of, I think it sparked some controversy, didn't it? It's Miller High Life comment.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I think when you write about a beer that everybody knows, you end up hearing from a lot more people. At least, when you're in kind of a mass media outlet like this is. Yeah, and it takes a lot for people to write to send me an email. They have to most of the ones that I get are on Sunday morning after people pick up the Sunday paper. And so they're sitting there and they're typing in that email address, and then they're sending me a note. So that's obviously kind of a different thing than clicking the link at the end of a blog post, which I get some of those too. I got one on Friday as well. But people like reading about beers that they love, and I don't give I do a star review or a star rating on all these beers, and I'm like, I think this is pretty much a perfect beer. So I'm like, am I gonna like short it and give it less than 5 stars? I'm like, no, it's a 5-star beer. That's fine. And I think there have been 2 other 5-star reviews, at least that I could find or remember. Going back, one was Kid Kolsch from New Glarus last summer, which again, I just think it's like 5 stars to me is like, could this beer really be any better? And I don't think that.
Kid Kolsch
from New Glarus, 5 stars.
I need that in my life. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh my God, Greg. Okay, it's coming back next week. Back on shelf.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, only was down.
I'm gonna have to go into a liquor store then. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then the other one was, I think it was Chill Wave from Great Lakes Brewing, the double IPA, which is a mosaic beer that I have not considered really a 5-star beer since then, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Doug, do you have anything about Miller High Life or any?
No, but I think we all have one of those kind of beers that, like he said, you stated it was like your comfort beer.
Yeah.
For me, like I've said it before on our Friday shows, like for me, that's like Labatt's. Like Labatt's is like, if I'm just going to drink something that's, I can just drink all day. I know exactly what I'm getting every time. That's the thing with craft beer. Each batch is not each batch, but most of them are different, at least in slight variations, because you can't, unless you're mass producing something, it's kind of hard to replicate things perfectly. So yeah, I get it. I know people that's like, oh man, I like a Budweiser once in a while. Well, I'm not going to shit on somebody for liking something that is mainstream.
Yeah, no, and I think the column that I write is almost entirely a craft beer column, because that's, you're talking about new products and things that if I'm writing about something, it's in some way, almost always, an endorsement. It's pretty rare that I would write about something that I don't like, because there's so many choices out there. Occasionally there's a news, like some kind of news element. Like I did grapefruit sculpin when Ballast Point. I kind of take the news of the day, I would say, but it ends up being more news of the month with the publishing, the timeline that I'm on to get stories published. But like, okay, I'm going to write about Ballast Point. That was crazy. That was an insane deal. Like, you remember that? Like, it was so improbable. And I bought a 6-pack of grapefruit sculpin for the first time in a really long time to write about it, because I was going to throw that review on. And I had previously liked that beer, and it was really bad. I may have actually not ended up tacking a review onto that one, because it was just not even worth writing about. I think that was the case with that one. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, talk about a symbol of the fall of Ballast Point. That one of the beers that was super hype, and people were chasing around when Ballast Point rolled out here in Wisconsin, and I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That was kind of it. It was just almost undrinkable at that point. So, but yeah, what was the question? Sorry, there's the content.
I didn't really have a question. I was just commenting on like a comfort beer, and
comfort beer.
Then you talked about writing about traditionally craft, and so basically, like, if you have something that you drink and you're just like, I'm not really a fan of that. It's not like you're gonna. It's not. Greg and I are kind of in the same boat. Is like, if we have something and we don't like it, we're not going to take a big, we're not going to dump on it too bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that an approach you take with that?
Yeah, sure.
I don't repeat buy a lot of beer, to be honest. I mean, it's like professional diligence is kind of, it ends up being a different, I guess I wouldn't even say 6-pack, because I'm hitting that pick, the build your own 6-pack single bottles section quite a bit, as much as I can. Just to try everything. And if there's anything new or a new seasonal or whatever, I want to try that and kind of scout it for the column. Because if it's a good new beer from Wisconsin brewery, I'm probably going to write about it. And it's not like I don't write about beers that are from outside Wisconsin, but there's enough to, and especially these days, like there have been some interesting breweries that have opened the market in Wisconsin the last month or so, 2 months, but I haven't written about them yet, because it doesn't feel right to, basically put a call out there for people to drink a beer that's not local right now, because the local breweries really need the support right now. So that was a big part of it, and I think that plays into the comfort beer. I mean, the comfort beer is in the context of the column that I wrote about here, was not just kind of the safe play. There's something about people are turning to those kinds of beers much more so than they had been before all this stuff started happening. And I talked to one of the Madison liquor store owners who's a pretty good source of mine, and we chatted quite a bit about how people are buying and what they're buying, and kind of the what he's seeing. And in Madison, it's going back to those local, kind of the standards, the flagships from those local breweries. A lot of Hopalicious, a lot of Fantasy Factory. It's not necessarily, and all the, and then like multi-packs from, a lot of New Glarus. And then it's the multi-packs, the bigger ones, so you don't have to come back. You can come back in 2 weeks instead of once a week, or however often. I used to be a two to three stops a week kind of guy, but mostly just scouting around. You understand? But
I want to make a point too, because I think what happens is, because this happens in my group, where there's an off chance that I'll post, like I was back in Philly, and I met one of my good friends from past, and he had Molson Canadian, and I was having Molson Canadian with him because that's what we drank. So I put it on the group, and people lost their minds somewhat, because again, there's a level of expectation that Greg only drinks craft, Daddy Porter only drinks craft. So then when I don't drink craft, people are like, wow. So I think that there was a part of that going on too with your again, people know you, but I think they have this expectation where they just think that like your favorite beers are just all craft, and Big Beer can't make good beer, and all that kind of stuff that goes around in our craft beer. What do you call craft beer bubble? That's great, right? Because we have political bubbles and the craft beer bubble. You know what I mean? So then when someone like you comes out, who everybody knows loves craft beer, who talks about it all the time, for you to say that a Big Beer is one of your favorites and it's a perfect beer, it's going to ruffle a little feather. So I mean, that's good, man. It doesn't, you don't. Like I tell my kids, you don't make an omelet without breaking 3 eggs. So,
well, I mean, I feel like that's not a super spicy take, I mean, like, people who make your favorite beers drink a lot of these kinds of beers, and especially High Life. It was kind of just a short line in the column, but people in the industry drink a lot of High Life. It is a very, like, well, I'm thinking about Off Color in Chicago, which is like a super, I mean, you talk about what a craft brewery is, Off Color checks all the boxes. Sour Wild program, barrel program, obscure styles, cute artwork, cool ethos, great tap room. They've got it all. They did a collaboration, High Life, with Miller, where they each brewed, they basically brewed, I think it was a wild yeast version of High Life, with a wild yeast that's particularly, bubbly, like champagne-y. So I mean, this is not reinventing the wheel. I think if people are so far inside their craft bubble that they don't occasionally drink, a macro lager, who, in my experience, almost all the best macro lagers are made by, or American style light lagers are made by the macro brewers, right? I mean, like, Founders, okay, I'm not a fan. I do like the beer that Greg's having there. Unless you poured a new one. Did you get?
Oh, I poured a new one, but it was this one though.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yep.
Keep it moving. Ale Sound. So I mean, I think that's a really well. I think that's probably the best. Well, maybe Lakefront. One of those. Those are in the conversation as the best craft lagers that I've had.
Oh, Lakefront. Yeah.
But it's just different. Like I don't know. I think High Life is there's such a range in these beers that I think people kind of overlook, or intentionally either overlook or dismiss, that they're all kind of like, pea water or whatever. But if you have them side by side, there are significant differences to them. And even if you don't have them side by side, I think High Life comes off softer, sweeter, obviously bubblier. Where I'm a big fan of hams too. I think that's a little bit more robust, and probably is little bit more on the bitter side of of balance, but they're all within this amazing range of balance. Like that's the thing that, I think these beers are exceptional at, and where craft beers almost always balanced, but in a different way. The range of acceptable balance in those beers is a lot wider.
Gotcha. Daniel agrees. He says everybody's got a comfort or guilty pleasure beer. He has fond memories of High Life from a bachelor party.
Yeah, and that was the other thing. I got so many tweets and even some of the emails were talking about fond memories with loved ones while with High Life as the adjacent beverage. And that's the column kind of talks about having an emotional connection to a beer, and I think that's a big part of it. It's not just how it tastes, which I think is very good on its own merits, but there's all this advertising with the kind of salt of the earth, the voiceover guy who's saying plain spoken things that are true. Like that's part of what we think about, or that's part of what we think about High Life when we're tasting it, even if we're not thinking about it. I wrote about a little bit about the shooting at Molson Coors. That's part of what I think about when I see that beer now. And not so much the tragedy of it, but the rallying to support the victims' families and the way the city came together in a way that was pretty remarkable. I mean, I guess I wasn't really surprised about it. Now that I think about it, like this is kind of what we do when times get tough, is we get together, and at least when we can. But it was a different, the whole Miller Strong, Milwaukee Strong thing came out, and that's a see this is a guy who expanded my beer knowledge quite a bit. He was an early interview. When I drank, oh my God, this is a crazy story. I drank so
let's hear it.
I had a friend who cleared out, or actually it was a coworker who cleared out her basement and found a can of Leinie's Bach that she knew was from her wedding, and her wedding was 20 something years ago. So here's this beer that's known to be this ancient age, and she just gave it to me and is like, whatever you want to do with this. I'm like, of course I'm going to drink it. So I cracked open a 20-something-year-old bottle or a can of Leinie's, and it didn't have the wide mouth, on the like the whole thing was like looking at a bomb that might go off. It was, and then pouring in, it's like, oh boy, what is that stuff? It was so bad. It was like turpentine.
Did it have like the tab that you pulled up? They had to pull the whole tab off?
No, it didn't have that, but it definitely looked old. It was like a little too narrow or a little too wide or something. And like you look at so many of those pop tops and it's like, yeah, that's normal. This is like, what is that? That's so weird. Yeah, strange beer. But Stefan was a source. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this to talk about how to age beer and how to do it well. And this guy is like, he's like a goose master over here. He's, very knowledgeable about how to, he gave me all the tips and that I repeated to my readers and made them smarter, and he made me smarter. So thank you.
Right.
No, I can wear a cape.
So you're saying that Bach tasted like turpentine? Was not a good beverage?
I'll have to, let me call it up, because it was, I called it Death Liney. That's the search term that I use when I'm looking for that column. There's no other thing on Madison.com that has the Death Liney.
So, which is while you look for that, it leads me to you are Milwaukee based now, right?
Yeah. We moved to my wife and I moved to Milwaukee in 2014.
Ooh.
And for a few years, I was still working back in Madison and commuting a few days a week, working from home a couple days a week. And then and I took the job at Milwaukee Magazine in December of 17. So it's been 2.5 years now, which has been, when you leave the newspaper business, it's tough because so many people are doing that, and newsrooms are getting smaller and smaller, and it's a pace of work, and it's a DNA that's hard to get out of your system. But but magazine life has been good, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done at the magazine.
But you got to Milwaukee though before Milwaukee became Beer Town again, and Milwaukee is Beer Town again, and it is the, sorry Madison, love you, but Milwaukee is the preeminent beer. Sorry, I know, sorry, but I mean, come on, like, you got to give it up. Yeah, you have to. And Milwaukee has so many that I haven't been to. But so, as we are doing this live, we are in the middle of a global pandemic. So we are all staying at home, or at least most of us are. We'll keep that conversation to the side there. But but so, what are you seeing out of the breweries there? Obviously, I know you keep in touch. And what I mean by what are you seeing, I mean, what are you seeing as far as continuing services, as far as takeout or anything like that? Are you seeing any closing? Are you seeing any? I heard you say that there was some opening. I mean, again, this speaks to the synergy, and I want from Madison West, looking an hour east. I feel it's crazy. I feel craziness. I feel so many popping up. Every time I go there, I can only spend so much time going to breweries. Like, everyone I go to is fantastic. I always skip over to OG Lakefront. Even going there is fantastic. They got great food. They got a great atmosphere. They got one of the best brewery tours ever, in my opinion, or at least I've been on. So, I mean, you have a plethora of great places. What are you seeing there in Milwaukee as far as the pandemic goes? And
yeah. So, it's been interesting. Obviously, I think what we've seen is innovation. I mean, they're figuring out ways to get their beer into out of the brewery and into the glasses. There are a lot of breweries in Milwaukee that made a living on their tap room, and that's obviously not unique to Milwaukee, but those are the breweries that I have been the most worried about, because first of all, there haven't been any closings, at least that have been announced yet, and everybody's doing something to, whether it's curbside delivery or takeout crawlers, or there's been a lot of breweries that haven't really done a lot of canning, that have done a lot more canning with using mobile canners. We actually, I'm not the only beer writer at Milwaukee Magazine. Dan Murphy had the gig before I got here, and he's continuing to write really good stuff for us on the industry. And he did a story about Will Craft Can, which is a small business that has a mobile canning unit that is like one of the sources that I talked to, Mike Doble from the Explorium, which is exactly the kind of brewery that should be in trouble with this. It's a brew pub. They do a little bit of bottling and canning, but it's mostly specialty releases that are, dribbled out into bottle shops. And that's more as an advertisement to say, hey, come to the Explorium and have lunch and have a couple beers, that sort of thing. They're located in the Southridge Mall, and which sounds bad, like a brew pub in a mall, but it's not a Granite City situation. I mean, this beer is really good. The food's good too, and they've been doing more regular canning runs, and they're using Will Craft Can because Mike Doble is an engineer, and he's set up big breweries before, and he really saw the quality that Will Craft was bringing. So businesses like that are finding ways to get those barrels and tanks clear and keep turning them. Over in Madison, Working Draft is doing. I mean, they're amazing. They're doing a lottery for their crowlers. Like they're moving so many. I mean, the thing is with all of this, curbside, whatever you got, it's all. I don't know how much of that lost taproom business this is all replacing. We know that packaging, canning, particularly when you're using a mobile canner, all of that is overhead and extra materials costs, and it tends to be a much lower margin part of the business than the taproom, obviously, where there's no distributor markup, there's no you're getting the premium retail price for it. You just do the price per ounce math on a pint at a tap room versus a 6-pack at the grocery store, and you can figure out what's going on there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a lot of cool things that are happening with different new kind of channels. One thing we can't do in Wisconsin is delivery. That's not allowed by state law, and it doesn't look like the legislature is interested in relaxing that on a short-term or long-term basis. Yep. But
strictly my opinion. Fuck that.
So, I mean, the big question is how much is this bare bones revenue holding over these breweries that are losing so much, and those payments on everything, all that stuff is still coming. From most of the breweries that I've heard from, their brewing staff is still pretty much, still employed full time. The taproom staffs obviously are laid off or furloughed or whatever, and then some of them are maybe on hand to help with these new channels, to curbside delivery orders, that sort of thing. But it's I don't know how they're going to, I don't know how they're doing. I think there's some people see all the beer that's being sold at grocery stores and liquor stores, and they think that breweries are doing well, and I don't think any brewery is doing well right now. There was a story in Brewbound, I think it was last week, looking at, and it was based on IRI sales, or was it, maybe it was Nielsen, I'm not sure, but it was a pretty reliable data source, national, and it had the brewing industry losing $8 billion over April and May, presuming that the similar orders are, or the similar situation as far as stay at home or quarantine, whatever, presuming that happens through the month of May, it would be, I think in the lone month of May, $8 billion off the industry. And that's not an entire month loss, because there's still all that packaged beer that's being moved out. But that's a huge chunk. And there's some breweries that are completely losing their only channel of revenue, which is the tap room. And sure, takeout orders or whatever can maybe replace some of that, but I don't know. I think there's going to be significant closures pretty much across the board. And you mentioned openings, like there's a couple breweries in here in Milwaukee that have just opened expansions or had expansion, like Broken Bat is one. They had a real small tap room in the 3rd Ward, right in downtown Milwaukee, and they're opening, or they will be opening, a new pretty big brewery and tap room in Walker's Point. Great neighborhood, great spot. They had like a they have an indoor wiffle ball field set up in the tap room.
Wow.
It's big enough that it has that, and then tons of extra brewing capacity, and obviously a big tap room. That was supposed to open April 1st, and they're not. But they are moving. They are moving a lot of 16-ounce cans, and there's a lot of that coming up. Going through, but every 4-pack of that is a the little packer thing, and 4 aluminum cans that they have to buy, versus the cost of a $6 pint or $7 pint. That's not good math for the business. So
that is horrible timing. Oh.
Yeah, I mean it would have been perfect. It would have been perfect because you've got opening day, of baseball. You got all that good stuff, and especially with a brewery called Broken Bat, where that's their theme is baseball. It would have been awesome.
Man.
And it will be awesome at some point, but not on April 1st.
Right. That's just horrible timing, though. Like, I just feel for them. I don't know them from anybody, but like, you know what I mean? You build up. How long does it take to make a brew pub? Come up with a concept, get the brewer, get the food, get all that stuff, and then it's in the middle of a pandemic. Anyway, dog, no.
Oh, man. And the thing is, like, them doing that and aligning it with like opening day and all that is like, that's really smart marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think breweries take so long to build, and I think they're the timing for when they started the whole project, and was leading up to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just a bummer that they're like not able to take advantage of something that seemed like a pretty smart business decision to do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Doug, you got a question? Or?
No, man. I'm good on that one, but so in Milwaukee, again, I'm not super familiar with because I've never been there. The handful of beers I have from there, I had some from MKE, and boy, I think Greg brought me one when he came here, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, where it was from. What are some of the ones that you would say are kind of like the not as well-known ones that you think really should, when things get back ramped up here, that people should really check out?
Yeah. I mean, if you're visiting from out of town, I think there's something like there might be pushing 30, maybe pushing 40 breweries in the metro area. Wow. So there's a lot going on, and a lot of them, most of them, I think, have opened since 2000. Since 2015 was the big.
Yep.
Yeah. Boy, as far as some of my my favorite breweries in Milwaukee are some of the ones that are pretty well known. I mean, Lakefront is a classic. A lot of people know them for the tour, because it's a very colorful and fun tour, very funny, and there's a lot of beer that's poured at it too. But their beer program is really, really good. There's pretty much nothing that they don't do well these days. They're big on organics. They were the first brewery to put out a certified organic beer. They have the My Turn series, which is where they give basically the keys to the brew house over to a different employee every I think it's 4 times a year or 5 times a year maybe. And the brewing staff works with the employee to kind of because there's a lot of employees that aren't brewers, and they work with them to kind of figure out what they would like to make, what do they like to drink. Sometimes it's just a straight ahead, yeah, I know exactly what I want, it's this. And then they might refine it to kind of fit it into the Lakefront profile a little bit, but for the most part, they get to basically make their own beer. And then it comes out with their name on it. It's called My Turn, Jeff or whatever. And and they've been doing that for, gosh, Greg, how long has it been? 6 years, maybe 7?
Yeah, I remember was it Lakefront Chad that
Yeah,
got barley wines? Was
I
that
think
them?
that, yeah, Chad was the Mambo barley wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a beaut. And I feel like that was like the second or third one.
Yeah. I've been on that series since then. That was my favorite one. But yeah, that's kind of how Lakefront, in my opinion, from my view, is how they like branch out and how they
Yeah,
show us a little bit.
the reason I love that series is it's a way to. I mean, Lakefront is a legacy craft brewer here. I mean, they opened in '88. It's been a long time now, and their specialty is lagers and kind of traditional styles. Although they certainly depart from that frequently, but I think what it's done is it's let them kind of it's let them introduce innovation and kind of fresh ideas into their lineup without kind of forcing it. I mean, they have this channel now that they can boom, 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 and really, kind of bring things through and make them, make it fresh. So they do that. They've got a great barrel aging program with great stouts, doppelbocks, kind of a really interesting range of barrel aged beers. And then their flagships are beloved. I'm not a huge fan of most of them, but River West is clearly the number one beer here in Milwaukee, number one craft beer here in Milwaukee, and Eastside Dark, their new Lakefront Lager they introduced last summer, and that's been a regular in my fridge because it's just damn good. So Lakefront's definitely one of them. There's 2 breweries from in and around the class of 2015 that I consider among my favorites. Those are Good City and Third Space. One is on the east side and one is down in the Menominee Valley. And good people, really good beer. They're both packaging breweries that have good taproom experiences. But their beer is distributed and it's out there, which to me is a really big part of like the breweries that I connect with, because I buy a lot. I do a lot more beer drinking at my house than I do out. So, because home life is work and it's tough to get out sometimes.
Yeah. Plus not having to drive, which is good after having.
Yeah, you also are a lot like me. I'm a homebody. But when I do go out, I go crazy and I go for like these long road trips. But everybody assumes that I drink most of my beer out. And the truth is I drink most of my beer in house. These are facts.
Yeah.
So, or we're going to say, Chris, I'm sorry.
I was going to say one more, actually 2 more. And then like kind of more on the under the radar, real small breweries that in Milwaukee. One is in River West. It's called Gathering Place. It's a real small tap room, although they're doing some distribution now, self-distribution, but they're selling 4-packs in Madison. Their flagship is a really good Kolsch called Treffpunkt, and their brewmaster Corey is an interesting feller on Twitter that we get into it a little bit, but really good people and really cool tap room and good beer. The kind of traditional, but kind of under the radar traditional styles. Like they've got a dark rye lager and lots of kind of just interesting European styles that you don't really see a whole lot of. So they're there. That's one of them. And then my other one, and this is probably the brewery that I'm most looking forward to going to once I get out of this house and can drink beer on premise again, is Venture Brew Co. in on North Avenue in West Milwaukee. Actually, it's in Milwaukee. It's on the west side of Milwaukee. It's kind of my local brewery. There's 1 or 2 maybe that are closer, but Venture is definitely my most regular haunt, and their beer is just fantastic. They've got I don't know if it's their flagship, but it's close. It's a saison called the Heights, which is a reference to their neighborhood in Washington Heights. And again, good people, great beer, and a really cool taproom experience. They actually are also a coffee roaster, so the Brew Co. is kind of a double nod to their coffee program and their beer program. And those guys, I mean, you talk about a place that needs that is vulnerable to all this. They're usually open from 6 a.m. or whatever, 5 a.m. maybe. I don't know. I don't drink coffee, so I'm not there that early. But from basically 18 hours a day serving either coffee or beer or both, and that is obviously they can't do that now. So they've been doing a lot of canning as well, and you just I haven't seen any of the books, so I don't know how much everybody seems to be making a big show of when they go and buy a crowlers or 4-packs from breweries, particularly ones that don't sell beer on prem, or don't sell beer to go usually, or they always sell beer to go, but that's not their main business model. Usually it's places where you go and have a beer. I'm seeing tons of photos of this on Facebook, Twitter. People text me, we get a text from a friend. It's like, yes, I got my Venture. It's like, awesome. That's great. And I hope that that's all, contributing to at least, keeping them on the baseline of being able to stay open until, just to get through to make it to whenever people can be back in the bar, or in the tap room. So anyway, that's a very long answer to what my favorite Milwaukee breweries are, but that's no, you get with me. You know that, Greg.
But when Doug asked that question, I don't know if you saw my face, but I was like, because like I was shocked, because I'm like, not shocked that he asked it, but I'm like, how is he going to answer this question? Because again, like you said, there are 40, and if you even you could even do like, well, let's just go by ambiance of brew pub. Then you would have probably like maybe 3 other ones. Or if you had like styles, or like I just like Belgians. There are places. I mean, Milwaukee's it's just really, really a fantastic place to be if you love craft beer. So
there's a comment that when I was saying the two that Good City and Third Space, I initially said City Lights, and that is a brewery in the Menominee Valley, and it is quite good. Their hazy IPA has become. To be honest, it was a brewery that I was pretty ambivalent about for the most part. They had a few good beers. All their beers are solid, but they didn't have anything that I was like, wow, this is really good. Solid but a little boring, I guess, was kind of the thing. But they've got a beautiful tap room. It's this old utility building, like a gas utility building. So it's this beautiful architecture, and they completely renovated it, and it's fantastic. It's a fantastic place to drink beer. And then they won, I think it was a silver medal at GABF this last fall. In the hazy IPA category, and I was like, "What?" And I was like, so of course I'm like, "Okay, well, I gotta try this beer," and it is fantastic. It's really good. It's it's not super like over the top haze. I mean, it's hazy, but it's not murky. There's those kind of opaque ones, and then there's like the hazy. I don't know. It's different, and it's not that super intense, over the top hop character. I mean, it's super hoppy, and it's great aroma, and it's juicy and all that, but it's not the kind of hop burn kind of into that territory. It is fantastic, and it's become a regular for me, and it's completely changed the way I see City Lights as a brewery. So I mean, that's what medals will do for you. And I'm somebody who should be paying closer attention anyway, but medals will do that to you.
So that Facebook user, just so everybody knows real quick, that Facebook when you comment in the group, for some reason, stream what the profile of the browser I'm using, Facebook doesn't let comments come through on groups. You have to go through and go to StreamYard, and you have to say that you have to authenticate it or something. I don't know. But Chris, that is our friend Scott Manning who made that comment there. And Scott Manning is, I have to give him a hat tip. I hope he's still watching. Not for Scott Manning, I don't know if we would all be here, because I met you, Chris, and I met Scott too at an event that Scott had for Wisconsin journalists. Was it? It was a fundraiser you guys were doing, and you guys were pairing beer and food, and you guys were talking about it.
That was a fundraiser for the Wisconsin Newspaper Association.
Yeah.
There was a Society of Professional Journalists Madison chapter. Yeah, and we did a talk with who else was there? I know Scott was kind of the host.
Scott was there. Mr. Adams was there.
Barry Adams, yeah.
Barry Adams was there.
Yeah, he's the State Journal's beer industry reporter. Yeah.
Yeah. And but long story short, man, I truth be totally told, I bought a ticket just because you were going to be there, and I wanted to meet you, and I wanted to meet Scott Manning too, and it was just like a double whammy, and it was like great, and I can support journalists, which I have, which I'm never going to be, but I have an affinity, and I also have an appreciation. Doug knows I go over Doug's stuff all the time. He doesn't like it, but that's another story. but no, I appreciate journalism, and so but being able to meet you and Scott at the same time was fantastic. So then that's why I was like, oh, this is a fundraiser, great. So that's how we met, and that's part of the reason why Chris is here, because I was like, I want to meet the beer bear, and it's great. And This is when I was coming.
I'm very glad that you went to that. I'm very glad that you went to that fundraiser, because it was great to meet you, and this has been a really fun friendship to kind of
Yeah, but it was a hat tip to what you said earlier in the show, which is when you were talking about your friend Stefan, about how he helped you. I'm going away. You've helped me, at least again, being my friend, and being able to talk to you is just great. But there's a certain level of again, if you want to be good at what you do, you have to put yourself with people who are already doing it and who are good. And that's just been my whole thing as far as networking goes. So again, this hat tip off to you and Scott. Scott also had this comment earlier.
4 years with Lakefront.
Yeah. So I don't know. Scott Manning is he is the brewmaster and owner of Vintage Brewing Company, which won the small brew pub of the year at the GABF last year.
I was going to say that they're no stranger to GABF medals.
Right.
Scaredy Cat Oatmeal Stout. I think that's a multiple medal winner.
That too. And also I need to point out that they're doing, and I don't know myself, but I've heard numerous people have DM'd me to tell me that Vintage is doing fantastic curbside pickup of all their food and all their beer, and they say it's like seamless. You get online, you do it, you show up. It's like almost a drive-through. And I don't know if you're familiar with that spot on East Wash, but it's a pretty busy area there. I mean, I'm sure it's less busier now, but it's a busy area. So they're doing a fantastic job. They always do a fantastic job. It's one of the places I want to go to my birthday every year. So just a hat tip off to Vintage. Why not?
Yeah, and because you mentioned it, Scott is also one of the is definitely one of the guys who has been a frequent and very copious knowledge sharer. That's really helped me build up my understanding of what it takes to make beer, run a beer business, and just all the ins and outs of not just brewing but the business side of things too. Yeah. Hi, Scott. Thanks for watching.
Scott, I've been trying to schedule you, so hit me up, bro. Come on. Let's go. Come on now.
He's a good talker. You better schedule more than an hour for him.
I know, but I was trying to get Scott to be my first brewmaster in here, but My first brewmaster won't be Scott. It'll be, I'm not gonna say, but it's coming next Thursday night around this time. We'll be talking, or next
Tuesday. You said it was next Thursday, yeah.
Next Tuesday. I'm sorry, Doug. Next
Tuesday.
Thursday is Vicky's Cookies. Damn it, I can't wait for that. But anyway, Scott, or I'm not sorry, Scott. Chris, did you see this comment here? Do you remember this?
Dortmunder.
Is Daniel? I mean, Daniel doesn't BS, but did that actually happen, or is he?
Well, the Dortmunder didn't have cheese curds in it, but I'm sure it was a pretty good pairing with the cheese curds.
Oh.
The cheese curds at Lakefront's Tap Room are, or they call it the beer hall. They are hot fire.
They're
fantastic.
Right. We got the cheese curds down there. What's up, Doug?
Yeah.
So upstate New York, we get cheese curds, but they're not. We get them. They're packaged. They're not like
squeaky
good cheese curds that you want. So like, yeah, my brother-in-law, his wife is from Wisconsin, and we've had some of the, good fresh Wisconsin cheese curds from her before. So that's I'm longing for that, and I haven't had it in 3 years. So,
Doug, and I didn't even bring you any cheese curds. What kind of friend am I?
Dude, you brought 8,000 beers.
I know. Next time is cheese curds, man.
That's the kind of friend.
Cheese curds. I'm gonna hook you up.
Yeah, definitely do that, because I know Jill would be happy with that too, because she loves cheese, and we'd like to take that and then just try to actually make some authentic poutine out of it too. So.
Cheese curds is one thing that I seriously, without a doubt, take for granted. They're just all around, and I'm like, I don't care. And then people are like, cheese curds and spotted cow. Oh my goodness! And I'm like, I don't care about either one. Anyway, so Chris, we asked you about your favorite Milwaukee breweries, and we asked you about how they're doing. Do you have any tips on how we can help our breweries?
Yeah, buy from them. I mean, I don't think this is a real big mystery, but if they're offering gift cards, through online delivery or mail order or whatever, buy them, and then don't use them for a while. As soon as don't go out and use them as soon as they're open. This is what they need right now is cash flow. And if you want to buy a hat or a hoodie or merch or a glass or whatever, those are all costs that they have already sunk into that inventory. And that is inventory, at least, that is not gonna expire like all the beer is. But that is any way that you can get cash into their hands for something, obviously whatever is within your means and stuff, but it's just money. That's what they need right now. So, obviously buying beer is great. If you can do, if they're offering growler, if you can bring in a growler and get that filled, that's probably their highest margin. Crowlers are, again, that's materials that they have to that's cutting into the their bottom line. Essentially, it's reducing the markup that they get for that sale. Not a lot of breweries that I've seen are actually filling outside growlers. A lot of times you have to buy the growler on top of it. And some breweries are waiving just basically giving you a free growler if you buy the beer. I don't want any more growlers. I've got a lot of growlers at home, but I think those are the kind of the main ways that you can support a brewery. It's not hard. It's not. I don't think it's super mysterious, but merch and deferred gift cards are a good way to go.
Yeah, we had Alo Galinsky on here, and he was mentioning that if you buy the gift cards, a good thing to do with those, if you have somebody who might not normally go to the brewery,
actually make it a gift, right?
That way, when things are open up, you actually get them in the brewery, so they're not spending it, but they're actually there, so they might spend more money that way. So using it almost like it's a gift card, but actually using it literally like a gift instead of using it for yourself. as a means to kind of help drive traffic back into the place, which I thought was really smart. I mean, we've asked this of everybody, but the answer is, like you said, it's not rocket science. They need cash, they need money because they're a business, and trying to help out as much as you possibly can, and buying what you can. I mean, we're all going through this, so all of us have our limitations, but you just do what you can, try to help out.
Absolutely. And I guess, one other factor with if you're buying packaged beer from a brewery, and you can do it directly at the brewery rather than at the liquor store or whatever. That's more money in their pocket. In most states, that means that they're avoiding the distributor markup. Not that distributors are all bad, but if you're talking about supporting breweries, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and you actually, Doug, we need to I'll talk to you on the side, but I love how sometimes we do this over live stream production talk. We should you and I should do a hit points on how we can help breweries, because Chris Chris says there isn't rocket science, but there's two really great tips in there. Number one is the gift cards and waiting to spend them and understanding all that. And also two is that beer is disposable as opposed to buying merch, which you'll always have, and they put the money out, but beer can deteriorate so fast, bad, they can't even do anything with it after spending a whole lot of labor and materials putting into that beer. So those are really good tips that we haven't heard, and we've been asking this question for weeks now, Doug.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Maybe we want to do a vlog somewhere and we can do the hit points of, just because we got more.
Maybe I should write about this, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it seems fairly obvious to me. I mean, but the more you think about it too, like you can get even deeper. Like, the hoppier beers are the ones that are going to go out, that have the shortest shelf life, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to help out your brewery, buy those beers first. I mean, I think I think at this point, we're 7 weeks in. I think that most beer is hopefully turning over now, even with this reduced kind of flow through. But if it's not, it should be on blowout probably at this point, because it's getting pretty late. So, for some of those breweries, I know, I've seen bars too that are having, bring in a growler and fill it for $4 of whatever you got, which is clearly just, blowing out the kegs to avoid, to make anything back from something that they were going to have to dump anyway. So,
yeah. One of our favorites, the Malt House. I don't know if you saw, they had a big crowler, big crowler run yesterday, and I don't know if they did good or not. I'm not sure. But I mean, I know they did enough that Bill got rid of some of his beer there. So
and I mean, I think that's a really good point. Like, I mean, I guess it made me think of a point that you should think about with this is be more intentional about your purchases. If you really like a brewery and you wouldn't want to see the liquor store shelf or whatever without that brewery, or if you want to go to the tap room after this is all open, support it now and be intentional about what your purchases do. I don't usually do that because I'm chasing the new, as kind of part of my job, but you don't have to chase the new. FOMO should not exist right now. So, the dollars matter. The dollars for these breweries matter more now than they ever have. So if you like Rocky's Revenge and you like Tyranina and you want to make sure that beer is there, 2021, you better buy a 6-pack of it right now. Same goes for whatever, analyze your ethos. If you know somebody at a brewery, think about that. All that should be playing in just into making more intentional decisions about this.
Yep. My tip to throw on top of this pile is if they're selling food and you're down with that, do that too. And I did that with Carbon 4, and it was really good. They have a deal. I'm gonna plug it. Yes, they have a $40 taco deal, and it was. I have two teenage boys, and being able to buy like one thing that everybody eats is just unheard of here. My lady went and got the $40 taco cart. You get two meats and you get a 6-pack of beer, and brought that home, and it was fantastic. And we were
thinking about driving to Madison, just getting one of those for myself. To be honest.
And also,
like I can eat 30 tacos or whatever it is.
Oh man, they were so good, and they gave you the lime, they gave you the slaw on top of it. I mean, they went out of their way. It was fantastic. The lady is she's very, very strict about how she wants her curbside. She wants it in the trunk. She doesn't want to talk. She'll wave to you, but she doesn't want any of that interaction. She said they were fantastic in that way. My favorite ale asylum. Why are they my favorite? Because a lot of things that Chris talked about, they're a comfort to me. I know that Ale Asylum makes good beer. They are cheap. $6 for this. $6 for a 6-pack of this. Nice lager. So I know I can just go. They do a great, curbside. And again, the lady's willing to do it. So like I don't even have to go out, and she does it. So like they're doing so. At least the ones in Madison here are doing so well as far as this goes. I'm just encouraged. I hope a lot of these things stay afterwards. Actually, as an avenue, I don't know, about laws and all that. We got to work that out. But I'm really encouraged, and I hope that like you, I hope Carbon 4 makes it to the other side. I'm assuming Ale Asylum is, but I don't think we can assume with anybody at this point.
No, I don't think so.
So,
I mean, yeah.
One thing before we get off of the tangent, and if we jump off here, is I do have to mention Chris. Chris is another one who Doug. We talked about this with the Carla, the main beer babe.
Mm-hmm.
Chris is a follow, in my opinion. He's a very good follow for beer Twitter. Chris, like Carla, and they interact too, but Chris, like Carla, is very timely about his beer takes. He's very timely about like if pop beer culture were a thing, like him and Carla would be on the top. Because how I know this is because when I get online and I have a beer thing in my head, and I go to my beer Twitter, and I just see either Carla or Chris are on it. Like they're either talking about it, they're either on point, and it's not necessarily things that are like, oh, this thing's happened with founders. Let's talk about it. No, it's like I forget what Carla did the other day. She was like, just talking about breweries and something like that, and it was in my mind before I even got to Twitter. You ever do it like they're reading my mind before? Chris is another one like that. So for anybody who's on beer Twitter or wants somebody to follow Twitter or interact with, Chris talks Wisconsin beer, but he talks general too. So it's not just about Wisconsin. You can really get in there with him too. So
I appreciate that, Greg. Thanks.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. Again, certain places I learn a lot from the people who doing Twitter, and you guys are really good at it. So
yeah, I just made sure that I followed Chris because like I said, I have a fairly narrow beer following that like me following on Twitter. I tend to go a little bit too political on there, so maybe it's better to keep a little bit away from that.
On Twitter, no way.
It's an easy rabbit hole to fall into.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so I'm not gonna go any farther than that. Just saying it. I think I need to branch out from that, so I'm a little less stretched.
Beer Twitter is a strange and amazing place. I'll just leave it at that.
Right. So, Chris, I think it's time to wrap up. You've been here almost
an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
It felt like 5.
Yeah.
Time flies, man, when you're having fun and talking beer. This is part of the reason why I've been doing it, during the pandemic, is to really keep me rolling and talk to my friends. What do they say during the pandemic? Talk to your friends and reach out to people you haven't talked to and all that stuff. So this is part of this. So I thank you for being part of that group. For anybody who wants a little bit more content from me and Chris, we can go to our YouTube channel here. I got something here. Did I put something here? Yeah. On the bottom there, American Porter. It was not American Porter, right?
Whoops.
Horrible.
That's a good style too. I don't think I could talk for an hour about that one though.
But I do. Yeah. I do have American Porter.
We probably could.
It's an American IPA with the Beer Baron. It was a good time. As I said, I try to limit those Styling with Daddy Porters to like 30 minutes because, most styles you can really get it down. You can talk about everything. You can be all encompassing. American IPA is a big ass crazy style, all encompassing. I mean, I forget we shot that a while ago. It's almost been a year. So I don't know. I don't even know if we went into hazies and milkshakes.
I was just saying, it was like, was it fall?
Yeah,
but yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, I'll have to go back and check it out for sure because
me too. Because
was milkshake IPA even a thing yet at that point?
It was. I think we were talking about it, but we're like, we can't even really get into that because again, American IPA only. I mean, we could do 3 hours of freaking IPAs.
Yeah,
it
is the style that has the most content for sure. Yeah.
But again, another astute point, Chris, about buying IPAs, and those are the ones that need to be fresh. Oh man, great stuff today. Chris, do you have anything to wrap up with? Anything we missed? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I don't know.
We went a lot of places.
Doug, you usually ask a style question. You want to ask him a style question?
A style question, as in what is a style you think is underrated, which is usually a question I ask of Greg's friends. A style that you like that you don't think you see enough of. And
Doug wants everybody to say ghosts.
No, I do not. I want them to tell me what they because
underappreciated.
I'm joking.
Probably Hellas. Maybe Hellas.
Wow.
It'd be something like that.
Yeah.
Balanced lager, easy, not sexy.
Chris, you're
really bad. I gotta tell you, between Kid Kolsch and from New Glarus, which came out last summer, and kind of my awakening with Treff Punked over at Gathering Place, Kolsch has been a beer that's been a style that's been on really kind of on the make for me, mostly because I think many of the American versions that I don't drink a lot of imports because my world editorially is American beer. I'm not gonna I don't know, maybe I'll wig out and do Saison DuPont some week or something, but there's just too much beer in America to get to that I'm gonna just focus my efforts there. But I do drink occasionally, just the landmarks of the style, just because they're great, and it's also as a kind of developmental tool, I guess. I don't know, educational. But Kolsch, American Kolsches are not good. Most of them, they're mealy and they're not dry enough, and they like if you have what I don't know, I believe that, and I have had a few German Kolsches, bottled though, so it's not the same. But since I've kind of had a little Kolsch revival, and man, some of the things that pass for Kolsch in America are not good.
Chris, do you ever have Parched Eagles Kolsch?
I have not, and that would be a brewery that I would actually be surprised if they didn't make it well.
That Kolsch is
it good?
It is so fantastic. It is
nice. All right. There's a great example of a brewery that's if you like Parched Eagle, go buy a shirt or something like that. And that's not to say anything that I know about Parched Eagle particularly. I think we're gonna get a dog bomb here. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Come in.
Is this our first dog bomb?
Say hi, buddy. Oh.
For Meet My Friends, it is.
Yeah, for Meet My Friends, it is. I had Simon on here once.
Simon's been on the Friday show a couple times, right?
Yep. Usually because he's snoring so loud, but yeah.
Well, not everybody said it. Jim Grolson from Parched Eagle, brewmaster, will be on the show next week this time.
Oh, there you go. Very nice.
So, yes, it's gonna be fun. But his it's called the Golden Ale. It's a Parched Eagle not the Parched Eagle flagship beer. It's the namesake beer for the beer.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. And if you're ever, when he drops it, that is the time to drink it. Not that it's bad, but it's just so good, so fresh. It's just amazing. In fact, it put Kolsch on my plate as a style that I love. And ask Doug, I scream and holler about Kolsch's. Every time I can get one, I love it. So, Chris, man, you're preaching to the Kolsch choir here, brother.
Yeah, I gotta say that the New Glarus one. Oh, sorry, dude. Yeah,
I gotta get that now. I have to get it. I mean, just like the concept of New Glarus making a Kolsch is like, yeah,
oh, that sounds good. And then the execution of it is, or at least last year, was perfect. It was perfect. It was perfect beer.
Well, we'll end on that note, Chris. Thank you for coming on.
It's very fitting because I'm a known Kid Kolsch honk, and it makes sense that I would end with a Kid Kolsch.
Yes, and for me it makes sense too because again it's a Kolsch and it's a style that I come around. And I was gonna jab you a little bit because I'm like, man, you're like a liar guy now, man. Not that you weren't always before, but we were talking about. I think we talked about it on the American IPA thing about how we're both kind of coming back to lagers. So no worries, man. It's great.
I do think I'm very averse to the concept of beer like your palate development being a straight line. But I am following. I mean, I think a lot of people chase intensity and intenseness of flavor for a stretch in their craft beer life or whatever before they kind of circle back to nuance and subtlety. And delicate beers are something that I've really been enjoying a lot in the last couple of years, much more so than I think I would have in the past. And Kid Kolsch is a part of that. Treff Punk is a part of that. Although that's not. I mean, there's a little bitterness to it. But the lagers. One of my favorite beers right now is Company Brewing, which is a Milwaukee brew pub, and they can. I know another one. Another one you got to get to.
No, I know that one, and it's it's one of my favorites. They're
canning their farm pills now, and it is this. I think I've had it in the tap room, but it's so delicate and just it's just beautiful. Like it's a German Pilsner that's bitter but delicate, and it's just, like when that needle gets threaded, it's so good. I gotta want to have one. I'm gonna go have one.
I wanted you to say Company Brewing as one of your favorites, and then you brought it up now. So Company is one of my favorites. I love it. But anyway, Chris, I'm gonna let you go because we could sit here for.
It's not like you're running out of column inches, right? It's no newspaper.
No, right?
You just keep going.
Chris, I definitely need to get you. We need to do the Kolsch show for Styling with Daddy Porter. We need to do Kolsch.
Okay.
So to figure that out because you love
Kolsch. Yourself some Kid Kolsch because apparently that's a must.
I know. I got to go to a liquor store for it. It's going to be a hurdle, but I can do it.
Yep.
Should be next Monday in Madison, probably.
Next Monday. Okay. Chris, thank you again. Again, you can see Chris on Styling with Daddy Porter. Also, Chris and I are hopefully going to work on some more content together. So thanks for coming on, buddy. See you soon. Stay safe and all that.
Yep.
You guys. Thanks for having me on. Take care, guys.
Thanks, man.
Bye, everyone.
So another great interview. Chris, if you're hearing us, you can stay on for post-production, or if you need to cut, that's cool. But we won't be here long. Doug, it was fantastic. So it's funny because one of Chris's favorite breweries, he said, was Third Space. Mm-hmm. So we get to visit here with Carrie on Friday.
Yeah. He's that too.
Yeah, regional sales representative, Third Space. I don't know if we've ever had a regional sales representative. Kerry covers all of Wisconsin. Third space is in Milwaukee, and Kerry covers Madison. So he's all around here. He's got a couple events coming up, so that'll be fun. And then you know these guys, Ben and Nick from Poppin' Daddies podcast, but now they're doing the Blank Show. You know those fellas, right?
What's that?
You know these fellas, right?
Sure do.
Okay, cool. Man, I know they've been a dad too. I know you've been a dad too, but sometimes all that dad too. Were you at the same one as this guy and all that?
Yeah, it's I mean, we've interacted online a lot. I don't think I've actually seen Ben or Nick at Dad 2.0, but they're part of that whole crowd. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we will rekindle that on Thursday. What's going on with you, man? Good?
All's well right now, man. Just living the dream at home, working from home.
Right. So, all right, Doug. We're gonna end this little shindig. Another fun guest. We'll see you on Thursday.
You got it.
With Ben and Nick.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers, folks.